The door was still swinging when I realized she wasn't coming back. It didn't slam. It swayed, like it was mocking me, just like she did. She didn't yell. She didn't cry. She laughed. That's what gutted me. Not the betrayal. Not the late-night messages I accidentally saw. Not the deleted call logs. Not even the gold necklace I found under the passenger seat, one I never bought. No, it was the laugh. That smug, pitying laugh that said, "You actually thought this was still something." She left wearing his jacket. I recognized it from the one photo she forgot to delete, cropped sloppily, like I wouldn't notice the arm around her shoulder. But I did. I noticed everything. Too late. I stood there, holding her half-washed mug, dish soap still on my hands, foam dripping onto the floor like I was the punchline to a joke I didn't get. "If you walk out now, it's done," I told her. My voice cracked halfway through. She paused, smirked, tilted her head like she was about to say something meaningful. Then she laughed. Just once. Turned the knob. Gone. It wasn't rage. I wish it had been. It wasn't even indifference. It was amusement. She thought I'd beg. I always did. When she threatened to move out, I packed for her, and then unpacked it all an hour later, just in case she changed her mind. When she skipped our anniversary to clear her head, I ordered flowers anyway and left them by the door. She didn't come home that night. Or the next. I told myself she was broken, that I had to be strong for both of us. What a joke. Turns out, she was never broken. She was just done pretending. And the worst part? Even now, even after everything, a small part of me still hopes she calls. Just once. Just to say she was wrong. But people who laugh when they leave don't make calls. They don't look back. They don't explain. They just disappear. And leave you standing barefoot on cold tile, holding a goddamn coffee mug like it means something. I was wiping toothpaste smudges off the bathroom mirror when her phone lit up on the counter beside me. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't even thinking about her. Not in that second. I was just cleaning, something to do so I wouldn't sit in silence with my thoughts crawling all over each other like spiders in a jar. But there it was. A preview message. Just one line. "He doesn't suspect a thing," face with tears of joy. No name. Just a gray circle and that little laughing emoji. Like the two of them were watching a sitcom, and the joke was me. I didn't open it. I swear. I just stood there, staring at the screen until it dimmed. My hand was still on the mirror, half a circle of Windex dripping down my knuckles like blood. I stared at my reflection and didn't recognize the guy looking back. Puffy eyes, patchy beard, shirt inside out. I looked like a man mid-breakdown, which, I guess, I was. She came home 2 hours later, humming. I asked where she was. She said, "Out." That was it. One syllable. No apology. No detail. Like I wasn't owed anything. I asked who she was texting. She didn't flinch. "Claire," she said, with that same blank tone she used when asking me to take out the trash. Funny, Claire's married. And boring. And lives 2 time zones away. I nodded. Didn't push. Not then. Instead, I waited until she went to sleep and took her phone charger. That stupid, passive-aggressive move you do when you're too gutless to confront the truth. I figured maybe she'd talk to me in the morning, if only to complain. But she didn't. The next day, she took the charger from the kitchen and went about her routine like nothing happened. She smiled while making eggs. Asked if I wanted toast. Toast. Like we were normal. Like we were fine. And for a second, I believed it. Until I went to grab the laundry basket from the back seat of her car. She'd left the door unlocked. I didn't mean to look. But there, shoved between receipts and an empty iced coffee cup, was a motel key card. A plastic motel key. Not a hotel. A motel. The kind with flickering hallway lights and coin-operated snack machines. The kind people don't go to for rest. They go there for secrets. I waited until she was in the shower. Sat down on the toilet lid. Held the key card in my hand like it was radioactive. When she came out, towel in her hair, I showed it to her. Said nothing. Just held it out like a broken offering. She looked at it, then at me, and shrugged. I said, "Tell me the truth." She said, "What difference would it make?" And that was the moment I knew she wasn't sorry. Not even a little. She wasn't hiding it because it was wrong. She was hiding it because I wasn't worth telling. And somehow, that hurt more than the cheating ever could. That night, I couldn't sleep. The apartment was too quiet, like even the walls were holding their breath. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her soft, even breathing beside me, wondering how someone could sleep so peacefully when she'd just detonated everything we built. My mind kept circling the same questions. Who? When? Where? Why? But none of them mattered anymore. What mattered was the feeling crawling up my spine. A cold, slithering certainty that I still hadn't uncovered the whole truth. And even though a saner man would have rolled over and tried to forget, I got up, padded barefoot to the living room, and opened her laptop. She never locked it. Not because she trusted me. She just assumed I'd never look. And for years, she was right. But that night something inside me cracked. My fingers hovered over the trackpad, trembling like I was about to cut the wrong wire on a bomb. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Emails, photos, directions to that motel. But then I saw the folder. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't even cleverly named. Just voices. Inside were audio files. Short ones, each labeled by date. The most recent was from 2 nights ago. I clicked it. At first there was just static, then her voice, bright, playful, a version of her I hadn't heard in years. She was laughing. With someone. A man. He called her Rin the way only I used to. He asked her if I was still pathetic enough to make her lunch. She giggled and said, "He's harmless. He'll never leave." Then a pause. Then his voice again, lower, almost a whisper. "Then I guess I can come over Friday." And she said, "The key's under the 3rd flower pot." I sat there frozen, headphones digging into my skull, while the recording played out like some grotesque parody of my life. All the years I thought she was tired, stressed, needing space. She was making jokes about me to another man. I didn't even notice the tears until one fell on the trackpad, smearing the screen. I wanted to wake her, shake her, scream, demand why. But instead I just sat in the dark, gripping the laptop, staring at her shadow in the bedroom doorway. She looked so small curled under the blanket. So innocent. Like a stranger wearing my wife's face. I closed the file, but the words kept replaying in my head. He's harmless. He'll never leave. That was the knife. Not the cheating. Not even the motel. The belief, the certainty, that I was too weak to walk away. That I would stay, no matter what, because she'd already tested the boundaries and found none. I didn't sleep at all. I just sat there on the edge of the couch, watching the windows slowly brighten with dawn, clutching the laptop like a lifeline and realizing it was the opposite. It was proof. It was everything I'd been too afraid to see. By the time the alarm went off and she stirred awake, I already knew. Today would be different. For the first time, I wasn't going to swallow my questions. For the first time, she was going to see what happens when the harmless man stops being harmless. And she wasn't going to laugh this time. I didn't confront her right away. That would have been too easy for her. Another meltdown from her sad little husband that she could walk past on her way to the door. No, this time I wanted her to feel it, to see it. I wanted the weight of what she did to land, for once, somewhere other than on me. So I waited. I watched. She shuffled into the kitchen around 7:30, same as always. Hair in a bun, oversized sweatshirt, bare feet padding across the tile. She didn't look at me. Didn't ask why I was already dressed or why I was sitting at the table in complete silence, staring at her like a stranger. She just yawned and poured herself coffee. When she reached for the sugar, I slid the motel key across the table. She stopped, one hand still on the canister. Her fingers twitched slightly. Then she glanced at the key, then at me. "You went through my car again," she said flatly. Again, like I was the violation. I didn't answer. I reached down and pulled out the earbuds and the phone I'd borrowed from work. I hit play on the recording. Her voice filled the kitchen. Light, flirty, careless. "He's harmless. He'll never leave." The laugh. The keys under the 3rd flower pot. She didn't flinch. She didn't deny it. She just stared at me, then at the phone, and then she smiled. That tight, pitying smile you give a child when they finally figure out the tooth fairy's not real. "You went through my files?" she asked, almost amused. I felt heat rise in my throat. "You recorded yourself," I snapped. "I didn't make you say that. I just found it." She shook her head slowly, like she was talking to a patient in a hospital bed. "You always dig through the garbage looking for something to bleed about." I was never supposed to hear that, was I? "No," she said calmly. "You weren't. And it wouldn't have mattered if you didn't. You would have still kissed me goodnight, still folded my laundry, still waited for me to come home and made excuses in your head about traffic and long meetings." I wanted to scream. I wanted to flip the table and smash that smug smile off her face. But I didn't. Because deep down she was right. That's exactly what I would have done. That's who I'd become. I'm done, I whispered. She laughed again. A shorter one this time, quieter. Like she was already bored of the scene. You're not done, she said. You're just finally waking up to the fact that I've been done for years. She picked up her coffee. Calm. Steady. Walked past me without another word. But then, right before she reached the hallway, she stopped. You want a divorce? She asked, her back still to me. Fine. File it. And then she walked into the bedroom and shut the door. No fight. No regret. Just a closing door. Like I was a phase she had finally outgrown. But what she didn't know was that I hadn't told her the whole story either. Because the recording I played her wasn't the only one I found. And the next one, the one I hadn't let her hear yet, was going to burn everything down. She thought she was untouchable. That much was clear. The way she walked off, sipping her coffee like she'd just won some courtroom battle, like my heartbreak was beneath her, like I was beneath her. But arrogance makes people sloppy. And she had been very, very sloppy. See, what she didn't know was that the folder on her laptop wasn't just full of her cutesy audio flirts and pillow talk. There was one file, just one, that didn't follow the naming pattern. It was just a string of letters and numbers, like a corrupted file name. I almost skipped it. Almost. But I clicked. And what I heard didn't just confirm everything. It made the motel seem like a footnote. It was a conversation. She was speaking to someone. A man. But this wasn't flirty. It wasn't playful. It was cold. Calculating. She was talking about me, but not the way she had before. She said, he won't fight back. He never does. I could empty the account tomorrow, and he'd just sit there blinking. The man chuckled. A different voice than in the earlier recordings. Older. Confident. Good. You've got the power of attorney signed, right? My stomach dropped. She answered, yeah. Told him it was just for insurance stuff. He didn't even read it. He just signed. I paused the recording. My hands were ice. That form. I remembered it. She brought it to me after dinner one night. Said her work was requiring employees to list beneficiaries or something. I didn't even think twice. I just signed. I hit play again. Her voice returned. Once that transfer clears, I'm ghosting. New city. New name. He can keep the dog. She can keep the dog. Snugs. The only living thing in this house that actually cared if I came home or not. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might pass out. It wasn't just betrayal. It wasn't just cheating. This was strategy. This was premeditated. She'd spent months laying the groundwork, manipulating paperwork, building a narrative that painted me as unstable and weak. She was going to disappear with everything and leave me standing in the ruins, wondering where I went wrong. But now I knew. And knowledge is dangerous in the hands of someone who has nothing left to lose. I made a copy of the recording, uploaded it to a private drive, backed it up twice. Then I gathered every document I could find, the lease, our joint account info, the power of attorney, even her old passport, and started building a file. Evidence. Proof. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do with it yet, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. Not this time. At 2 a.m., I walked into the bedroom. She was asleep. Peaceful. Like none of this meant anything. I stood there for a while, staring down at the woman I thought I knew. The woman who, just months ago, told me she missed the way I held her in my sleep. What a lie. I walked out of the room, closed the door gently behind me, and started making the calls that would change everything. She always assumed I was a spectator in my own life. And maybe for a while, I was. I let things happen to me. Let people walk all over me, especially her. But something changes when you realize the person you love has been planning your collapse behind your back. It rewires something inside you. And that rewiring started the moment I sent the recordings to my brother. He's not a lawyer, but he's damn close. Real estate law. Quiet guy. Keeps to himself. But when I sent him the files with no context, he called me in 5 minutes flat. Are you serious? He asked. This is real. Every word. I said. Then you need to go on the offensive. Right now. That same day, I went to the bank. She didn't know I had set up a personal account 6 months ago, back when I first started getting that uneasy itch in my gut. I'd only dropped in a little at a time, barely noticeable. But by now, it was enough to hire a lawyer. And I did. One who wasn't afraid to go nuclear. By the time she woke up that morning, 2 things had happened. My name was pulled from our joint accounts. An official freeze was placed on any power of attorney-related transfers. She had no idea yet. She was in the kitchen, barefoot, scrolling her phone. She looked up when I walked in and tried to smile like everything was normal, like she hadn't recorded herself scheming to ruin my life. I made eggs, sat across from her. The silence between us was brutal, and I waited for it. Waited for that little moment when she'd discover the walls were closing in. It came fast. She opened her banking app. I saw the change in her eyes before she even said a word. Her mouth opened slightly, then closed. Her thumbs tapped the screen again and again. Then came the words. Did you change something with the account? I didn't answer right away. I took a sip of my coffee. It tasted like gasoline, but I kept my face calm. Yeah, I said quietly. I did. She set her phone down. Why? Another sip. Because I know what you've been doing. She stared at me, blinking. No fear. Just calculation. I saw it. She was scrambling, analyzing what I might know, and what she could still lie about. You're being paranoid again, she said finally. Is this about the motel key? Because I told you. No, I cut her off. It's about the voice recordings. That was the crack. That was when her face changed. Just slightly, but it was there. A twitch in her jaw. A flicker in her eyes. She didn't ask which recordings. She knew. I sent them to people. I added. You can't delete your way out of this. She leaned back slowly in her chair, trying to look unbothered. You think you've cornered me? I know I have. She exhaled a slow breath. Almost like she was impressed. Took you long enough. And there it was. No denial. No apology. Just admiration for finally growing a spine. But what she said next, that's what shook me. I always wondered what you'd do if I pushed you hard enough, she whispered. Looks like I got my answer. Then she smiled. A slow, knowing smile. Not fear. Not panic. Just the confidence of someone who still had one more move. And suddenly, I wasn't sure who was really in control. For 2 days, we barely spoke. We were two ghosts trapped in the same space, passing each other in the hallway, brushing shoulders in the kitchen, exchanging nothing but silence and the occasional glance charged with unspoken venom. I thought the worst had passed. I thought I had disarmed her. But I didn't understand what kind of person I was truly dealing with not until the letter arrived. It wasn't handed to me. It was slid under the front door like a scene from a thriller movie. No return address. Just my name, typed in bold on a plain white envelope. I opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a single page. No greeting. No signature. Just a printed paragraph and a photocopy of something that made my knees go weak. The paragraph read, You made your move. Now it's my turn. You want to play with evidence? Let's see how this one lands. The photocopy was of a police report, filed 2 weeks ago. My name. My address. A statement accusing me of increasingly erratic behavior, emotional instability, and even an alleged threat of physical harm. The words were chilling. Cold. Designed for maximum damage. She had filed this before I even found the recordings. Before I confronted her. Before I froze the accounts. She hadn't just been planning to leave me. She was laying the groundwork to destroy me. And it gets worse. Attached was a second sheet. An application for a temporary restraining order. Dated for the day she planned to leave. I stumbled back and sat on the floor, clutching the papers like they were burning through my hands. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear the clock ticking on the wall. She'd been setting this up for months. Not just to hurt me emotionally, but to bury me legally. I saw it so clearly now, how she'd been carefully crafting the crazy husband narrative. Telling her friends I was paranoid. Telling her coworkers I was controlling. All the groundwork, laid like dominoes. And I'd just helped her knock them down. I confronted her that night. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just held up the pages and asked, why? She didn't deny it. She didn't flinch. She just looked me dead in the eye and said, because I needed an exit plan, and you were too slow to give me one. I never hurt you, I whispered. Not once. But you could have, she said, voice ice cold. And that's all I needed on paper. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I was shaking, not from rage, but from disbelief. This woman, the one I'd loved, defended, fed, trusted, slept beside, she was willing to invent fear to take everything. She stepped closer and leaned down, her voice dropping to a whisper. You're not going to win this. I'm already 10 moves ahead. And you? You're just reacting. Like always. Then she walked off, calm as ever, as if she hadn't just planted a legal nuke in the middle of my life. But as I sat there, the pages still in my hands, something strange happened. I stopped shaking, because now I saw her clearly. No more confusion. No more hoping for a version of her that didn't exist. This wasn't about saving a marriage. It wasn't about betrayal anymore. It was about survival. And for the first time in years, I knew exactly what I had to do. I didn't sleep that night. Again. But it wasn't the same kind of sleeplessness that haunted me before. This time, it wasn't about heartbreak or confusion. It was clarity. Cold, sharp, and unforgiving. She tried to trap me in a story where I was the villain. A manipulator. A ticking time bomb. She could walk away from looking like the victim. But the one thing she underestimated was that I wasn't alone anymore. My brother had already looped in a friend of his who handled family law. Quiet guy. Brutal in court. He reviewed the police report, the restraining order application, and the recordings. His response was simple. This is textbook manipulation. We'll bury it. But you need to be smart from now on. And fast. The next morning, I walked into the courthouse with a folder full of proof and a lawyer by my side. I filed a formal response to her claims. Not just a denial, but a countersuit. Fraud, financial deception, character defamation. We submitted the audio files, the metadata, the bank records, and even emails she forgot to delete from her laptop. It was surgical. Within 48 hours, she was served. She came home that night to find her key didn't work. I didn't change the locks out of revenge. I did it because my lawyer said she had no legal grounds to remain in the apartment while the case was under review, especially since I'd been the sole payer of rent for the last 3 months. When she realized she couldn't get in, she knocked once. Then again. Then she screamed my name through the door. I didn't open it. I sat behind that door, breathing slowly, calmly, not in victory, but in peace. She never came back after that night. 2 weeks later, her lawyer reached out to settle. Quietly, privately. No courtroom, no hearing, just a clean break. She wanted it to disappear as fast as possible, because she knew that once a judge heard the full picture, it would stain her permanently. I accepted the settlement. Not because I wanted the money back, but because I wanted closure on my terms. The apartment stayed mine. The accounts were severed. She walked away with nothing she hadn't earned honestly. And me? I kept Snugs. I kept my name. I kept my freedom. It took time. Months. Therapy. Long walks. Nights of doubting myself all over again. But eventually, the fog lifted. I started writing again. Nothing serious at first. Just little things. Journals. Poems. Fiction. Then something strange happened. A story I posted online went viral. A small thing. But it reminded me that I wasn't invisible. I had a voice. And people actually listened. A year later, I published a book. Nothing fancy. Self-published. But it was mine. People started following me. Asking for more. Saying my stories helped them get through their own pain. I never told them where the words came from. But maybe that was the point. Pain turned into purpose. She tried to erase me. Instead, she made me. And now, every time I hear laughter, the kind that once broke me, I don't flinch. Because I know who I am now. And I know I'll never let anyone write my ending for me again.